All right, back with you one more time for one more game. We've reached the end of the road, and it's a nice place to be. Georgia and TCU in the NCAA championship game, or the college football playoff championship game, if you will. And here to talk about it, as always, Eric Zier and DJ Shockley. And guys, we've seen everything this team has put out this year for Georgia, and they need to do it one more time. Let's kind of recap where we are at this point, especially in the postseason. I mean, Georgia went through the regular season extremely strong. Another great performance by a defensive group all year long. Then we get to the SEC championship and the first playoff game. Are we seeing cracks in the defense a little bit? We've yielded 30 points to LSU and 41 to Ohio State. How do you guys view the way we're playing defense right now?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I think my view was just of the entire team, and I'll kind of dive into defensively or defense specific in just a second. But it is when you're the defending champion and you carry that crown, and you've got that target on your back throughout the entire season. There's a reason you see so few repeat national champions, because it's week in and week out. You're getting the best shot of everybody, and as the pressure mounts and that drive to go repeat continues to intensify, I think some of what we're seeing is just an attrition of will almost, where we're, I don't know if we're limping to the finish line by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a hard, long battle. And I think we're seeing some of that where you're coming in and week out, and you've got teams that are playing with absolutely nothing to lose. They're emptying the playbook. And they're letting it unleash on the dogs that have got really the weight of this repeat run on their shoulders. I think, if anything, the fact that we're in this game now, that gets alleviated some. We're here, now we go play football. But leading up to it over the past couple of games, I think we've seen some of that. And then I think you couple that with Ohio State had arguably the best quarterback and receiving core combination that college football can offer. Obviously, they're right up there at the top. LSU, very, very skilled as well with their receiving core. So I think you're seeing top level talent against a team that is trying to do something that is historic and carrying that weight. And then you couple it with some small breakdowns and some small busts, and all of a sudden you've got all of these questions. I think that because we're at this point in the season, there is one game left. Everybody can see the finish line. Now it's just a matter of going out and finishing the drill that you started so many months ago now, that some of that pressure gets relieved if you're a Georgia Bulldog, right? And if you're playing on this football team, now we can go out and play too. We can smell the finish line. We can see the finish line. So I think some of that pressure gets alleviated because we're in this football game. Definitely some things that we've got to clean up that we've talked about really for the past month that we need to go clean up. So I think it's a combination of a number of things, but I think some of those pressures get relieved because we're in this national championship game. We've reached the mountain. Now we just got to go climb over the pinnacle.
Scott, I think Z spoke very eloquently about a lot of things that obviously have happened over the past few weeks, and I think he's spot on. And a couple of the things that he talked about was the things that came top of the mind for me. And I think the other part of it, just to add a little bit more to it, is everybody expects this Georgia defense to play at a certain standard. Everybody expects them to be way up high. And rightfully so when you're top three in the country, the last few years in total defense, and you're shutting people out, and, you're playing with all these really great athletes, and you look really good doing it, and there's a standard. And when teams come out and they score points on you, people are like, oh, they're up in arms about what's going on. But the other part of it is what Z just mentioned. Those guys on the other side are good as well. Those guys go out and they game plan. Ohio State had 4 weeks to game plan for Georgia. They dissected Georgia's defense in and out, and they had a lot of really great plays. And I think the other part is, Z mentioned, you got 2 guys who could easily be in the top 10 of this year's draft. And one of those guys, he's coming back next year. He was only a sophomore in Marvin Harrison Jr. So you're playing against top-tier talent, and there are times where, you got beat. Maybe, we talked about in the pregame show, maybe a guy didn't play to his right leverage, or a guy didn't get his head turned around. Little small things like that contribute to big plays or chunk plays down the field. But then there's also, you got to give them credit for drawing things up. And I think that's similar to when we talk about our offense, we talk about how good Todd Monken is, we talk about how good Stead is. Well, a lot of that is preparation. We have a game plan towards other people, and people don't question it that way because you're expected to go out and score points, where other teams are in the same kind of mindset of, yeah, they're a good defense, but that doesn't mean we can't draw up really good plays. They got really good coaches on the other side. And obviously it's been, it's been stressful at times to watch, CJ Stroud and Nussmeier go and throw for 300-400 yards. But at the end of the day, I think the most important thing that Zeke mentioned is we're here right now talking about a national championship berth again. We're in this game again. And regardless of what happened before us, even at the end of the Ohio State game, when they were going up and down the field, guess what? We found ways to get stops when we needed them most. So all that was fun. It was good. They made plays, but that defense showed up at the end of the ballgame when they needed to. And now we're sitting here talking about, playing for another national championship with all that being said and what happened to them.
And even with the cracks, if you want to call them that, on defense, offensively, Georgia has maybe even been stronger in the last two games than they were over the course of the regular season. I mean, just from a point total, they've put 92 on the board in two championship games, if you will, I guess a Peach Bowl championship or a playoff game anyway, and then the SEC championship. And we've seen in the Ohio State matchup, we saw two guys in Stetson Bennett and Stroud that were Heisman finalists. We're going to see another one this go around at TCU in Max Duggan. The Heisman winner has been eliminated. They're not playing anymore at USC, which is a little bit of a different take on that. But how important are the quarterbacks at this point, at this juncture in the season, to really drive football teams, like we've seen with Stroud, like we've seen with Stet, and like we've seen with Max Duggan?
Scott, I don't think you get here without having good quarterback play. We got to be honest. This is the best of the best. You don't have good quarterback play and, play for in the college, football playoff. And Stetson has been the guy the last 2 years who has been the ultimate leader for this team. When everybody, was, really questioning Kirby on why Stetson is the guy, he's continually showed you why. And Zeke can really account for this just as much as I can. In the last ball game, we can admit Stetson didn't play his best ball. And you're talking about for 3 quarters, he did not play his best football. And for about the majority of the time, it was tough on the offense, and especially in that third quarter, we had a couple 3-and-outs, and obviously everybody works together, but everybody looks at the quarterback for the position. But then when the moment matters the most, that's when 13 has showed up, and I think that's a big reason why Georgia's playing in his national championship game, because of the quarterbacks. And obviously Max Duggan finished second in the Heisman for a reason. The way people feel about him, the way coaches voted for him, the way, he's got his team 13-1 right now. And they lost in overtime in the Big 12 championship. And he's done everything possible up to this point to give his team an opportunity to play for a national championship. He only got 6 interceptions on the season, 32 touchdowns, over 3,500 yards, second, third leading rusher on the team, just a physical runner with the ball in his hands. And everybody I've already talked to about TCU talked about just his grit, his toughness, the way he thinks every single play should go score. And he goes about his business that same way. And I think that's the same way we look at Stetson is he wants the best for this team every single game. And these quarterbacks are a big part of the conversation. That's why you look at what happens at the end of ball games. It usually comes down to which quarterback plays the best. And I think at the end of the day, what you do for the first 3 quarters matters for sure. But when it's clutch time and you got to go score, it's clutch time where you need a couple first downs and you put the ball in the hands of your quarterback and they go make plays with it. That's what's most important. So both these guys are really great players. Both these guys have shown the ability to be clutch players, especially down the stretch here. And neither team would be here without their quarterback.
I completely agree with everything that Shock said. First of all, teams don't get to this level, to this point in the season, without elite quarterback play. And the two things that really come to mind outside of their physical talents and what they've been able to go do and how they show up, it's their grit, to borrow the word that you just used, Shock, for both of them. Both of these guys have shown tremendous resiliency throughout their careers, throughout the season. It matriculates through the entire team and through the entire program, where everybody takes on that grit because their leaders have got it. And then the other one is just leadership. They step on the field and they have got the absolute confidence of every single person on that team. When you step into a huddle with a couple of minutes left in a football game and you need to go score a touchdown to get yourself into the national championship game, that doesn't happen unless every man in that huddle is looking at the quarterback with absolute confidence that he's going to go get the job done for us. They obviously have their responsibilities. They know that no one out there needs to be Superman. We've all got to go do our jobs. We've all got to go execute. It doesn't happen unless they've got extreme confidence in the leadership of that quarterback and the guy that's calling the shots. Georgia has got that instead. TCU's got it in Max. You've seen that happen time and time again, especially when you look at TCU's season and how they fought and how many close games they've won and how they've had to overcome adversity. So I look at these quarterbacks on top of the tremendous years that they've had and the tremendous careers that they've had. What stands out to me is the grit that both of these men carry every single day and how that carries over through the team, and the leadership that they both possess to elevate the play of everybody around them. Both of these quarterbacks have their football teams believing they can win, and that confidence you can't talk about it enough when it comes to winning football games and winning championships, and it emanates from the leadership that both these quarterbacks give.
Scott, I know we got two quick QBs on this broadcast team, but it's a reason why we're in this game because you're our quarterback. You've been leading us.
Let's go, Scott.
No. Get deep in here. We've seen both teams, and TCU really this year more than Georgia, come from behind, win a lot of close games. Georgia hasn't had that many, especially the last 2 years. Obviously this year you can think of what we just played in Ohio State. We were behind for 95% of the game, and the same thing at Missouri.
We were behind forever.
Yeah, we led for less than 2 minutes in that game, but when it mattered, Georgia had the most points. But what characteristics do teams develop when they play a lot of games like that? When they get down and they find a way to come back and they win ball games, which TCU has done a bunch this year, and they've played a lot of tight games. Georgia has not played a lot of tight games, but when we have, we've seen that ability to do the same thing, to come from behind and win the game. What characteristics do teams establish and build over a course of a season when they're able to do stuff like that?
Scott, I think the word that you hear Georgia use all the time is resiliency or resolve, right? We're not going to quit. We're going to keep going. When it happens through the course of games, right, that's where the confidence that what we've done is going to pay off. So I think the fact that both these teams have done it, and all you need to do it is one time. You do it one time, and now you've got the belief that you can go do it, that you've got the courage to continue to fight, to not quit, to have grit, to have resolve. But, both teams have shown the ability to go do that. That doesn't start, though, in games, right? The confidence is built in games. That starts at the offseason when you get up at 5:30 in the morning to go work out, and when it's 30 degrees outside and you're doing winter workouts. That's when that resolve is built. That's when that brotherhood is built. That's when that belief is built that we can go accomplish anything. So, you look at what these coaches have done, right? Sonny Dykes has done it in 1 year. Kirby instilled it, honestly, the first year that he got here as well, that there's just a culture and a DNA that is built. You talk about it all the time. It's one of Georgia's pillars, resiliency, right? That national championship ring that somehow we all got as a part of what the team did last year, right? That word is on that ring, resiliency. So that's we're going to continue to go fight. So it's something that is talked about and ingrained not just in the players on the team. It's ingrained throughout the athletic programs, really, of both of these universities. That's what it's about, and those type things carry over beyond just the football field. But when you have that, it's a belief that is built intentionally with purpose, and it starts from the minute anybody steps into that program and that athletic department, that building, and it's just a culture that begins to carry over, shows up on the field, and then that's where the confidence that says all the things that we're doing to build that resiliency, to build that resolve. We know that we've done the right things for it to go pay off, and now we've got to go a belief that we're going to win regardless of the situation or the circumstance.
Scott, I think the word resiliency is really big. And it's a word that Kirby uses all the time, like Z just mentioned, one of the pillars for sure. When I get a chance to be in the locker room before the game or after the game or halftime, he uses that word resiliency a lot. But then he also uses the word that he used a lot in this Ohio State game, and the word was composure. Guys had a lot of composure in this ball game. They didn't blink. They didn't flinch. And even at halftime, he mentioned, hey, guys, we played on the road in the SEC at Missouri, and we were down worse than this, and we found a way. So he points to certain times in the season and gives them that, hey, guys, you already did this before. This is not something that's new to you guys. And I love the fact that they were able to play another game. I think we talked about it during the season, that it was good for this team to play in a game like this, or to play in a couple games where it's close, like when we was on the road in Kentucky, like playing in those games where it's tough. Is, you had some adverse situations, and now you get into the college football playoff and you're playing in one of the biggest games of the year, and it's not new to you. And I think that's what was most important in this ball game, was they had been there before. And no guy flinched, no guy even, batted an eye, because they knew they had what was inside of them to go out and win this ball game. And I love the fact that he continues to kind of value that kind of stuff of resiliency and composure, and just going out and playing with that grit. And ultimately, that's what the team looked like there in that fourth quarter when it mattered the most. Down 14 in the fourth quarter. I think that I saw some crazy numbers, like 1 in 200, whatever it was. You come back and win that ball game, but you found a way to do it. So I think composure and resiliency are two words that I think Kirby Smart definitely is a pillar of the program. And, you saw it front and center in that game versus Ohio State, and the reason why, they were able to come out on top.
Shock, one of the things too, as we talk about being in that position and winning that game, I mentioned a little bit about the mental burden that you carry when you're striving for perfection, when you're striving to repeat. And we talk about maybe some of the cracks that we've seen defensively. And I almost feel like there's a weight off of this Georgia team because we didn't play perfect, right? And we've had 2 games now where it wasn't perfect, and we've still found a way to win, especially when you look at what we've done defensively. That burden of perfection, I feel like is gone a little bit. We don't have to be perfect. We've proven that we're not perfect, right? We can still go win football games. There's something that is freeing to that as an athlete, as a player, that says, all right, I'm here now. I've reached the pinnacle. I know that I can go win when I'm not perfect. And I've shown that, listen, I've got some cracks. Now let me go out and just go play, because I don't have to carry that burden anymore. Leading up into the Ohio State game, at least I, as a fan, maybe a little bit closer to the team than a fan, you can almost feel that from having played the game before. When you go down that road of trying to repeat or trying to be perfect at what you do, there's an added pressure that begins to weigh you down a little bit. I think because we've gone through the past couple of games, because we found a game that we won, that I honestly don't know how we won the football game, because it felt like that it was inevitable that we were going to lose. All of a sudden, you go get that victory, you go find that, you have the resolve to go do that, you have the composure to go do that. I really think that we're going to see a Georgia team step onto the field Monday night in LA or Monday afternoon in LA that is going to be freed of that burden, and let's go play ball.
Last thing for you guys, fill in the blank here, and you can answer both sides, but Georgia wins this game on Monday if, fill in the blank. TCU wins this game on Monday if, fill in the blank. Your thoughts?
Shock, you want to start? You want me to?
Yeah, I'll start. Obviously, for our side, I think if you win this ball game, if your defense finds a way to get more than 3 or 4 stops. I mean, you can't have what we've had in the last few games with some big chunk plays. And I think after a while, you start giving them up and you find a way to win, and then finally the luck runs out. And this is a game where they got some big time playmakers on the outside. Quentin Johnson is a big 6'4", 215 receiver who, a lot of people I've talked to said he's similar to Marvin Harrison Jr. So you can't have the plays that you had in that ball game and expect to still be in it from Georgia's side of it. And you can't let Max Duggan have it in both areas. So you can't have it with him throwing it and running. We know how good he is in the run game. He's shown that. He's been physical doing that. But if you give him a two-way go, I think that just does not bode well for us. And we saw it almost bite us against Ohio State when C.J. Stroud got out a few times and hurt us with his legs. So I think that's a big part of the ball game, is being able to corral him and force him to be one-dimensional in this ball game and not give him the big plays. On the offensive side of the ball, I think we can't have the lulls. Obviously, I think a big part of the game is that third quarter where, we had a couple, 3 and outs, and they were able to go and extend the lead. And that just puts so much pressure on you to try to come back. I don't think we can have those open, empty possessions in this ball game. And obviously, I think it has to be turnovers. The extra possessions are huge in this ball game. The momentum swings in this ball game are going to be huge. TCU's have been a team that you talked about already, Scott, who can absolutely find a way to win a ball game. So you turn it over late in the ball game, you give them an opportunity to capitalize on it. It seems like all year long they found a way to do it. So not turning the football over is big. And I think for TCU, it has to be they have to start fast in this game. If they start fast in this game, they got a really good chance of staying in it. And we've seen late in the year how they, at the end of ball games, find a way to win ball games. So I think the big thing for them is starting fast, but also it can allow us to run the football on us for an entire ball game. And that's kind of what we've kind of had our MO on, is just, ground and pound and maybe do that. But they've been able to stop them. They did a really good job versus Michigan stopping the run. So if we're able to run the football, then we're good. But if TCU can stop the run and obviously play big on the defense side of the ball, that gives them a huge chance in this ball game.
Yeah, I'm right along those same lines with Shock. I think Georgia wins first on the defensive side of the ball. You can't let Max Duggan hurt you both ways. You've got to make him one-dimensional. You've got to keep him in the pocket. You've got to make him throw the football to go beat you. TCU has got tremendous talent and skill positions. They're not as deep as Ohio State in terms of that elite talent. But if you let Duggan get out and hurt you with his legs and stay multi-dimensional, it can be a long afternoon for the Dogs again, because he's that good. On the offensive side of the ball, I think the Dogs have to run the football. And if we can go establish our presence running the football, it opens up everything else. If we have to go get into another shootout, especially coming off of one that we just did, I think it could turn into a long afternoon. If we're able to run the football, that sets up everything else that we want to do in the passing game. It sets up our vertical passing game. It sets up, getting the ball out on the edges and everything that we want to do. So I think the Dogs have to run it and have to keep Max Duggan from running the football. TCU, they've got to get this into a track meet and keep it close to where they've got a shot to go win in the fourth quarter of this football game. They've been in so many of these games where they found ways to win late, that if this thing is close going into the fourth quarter, they will have an edge mentally just because of what they have done through the year. So if you're the Dogs, you want to step out fast. You want to create a big spread and then just not relent and turn the football game over to that big offensive line, like we have seen so many times over the past couple of years, where they're able to go ice the game and put it on their shoulders. Because this gets close into the fourth quarter. You've got two great teams, two great quarterbacks leading these teams, but TCU has made a living off of winning football games late.
All right, I lied. I got one more question. Do you guys buy the fact that Georgia is about a 2-touchdown favorite?
I do not in this football game. It is TCU, they've been underestimated all year long. And you don't get here if you are not talented and you are not good and you do not know how to win. TCU is all of those things, and they are playing with an extreme amount of confidence. They are playing with a chip on their shoulder and nothing to lose. this is going to be one heck of a football game.
Yeah, I don't buy it either. I mean, 13 points, that's a lot, but in the ball game, like Z just mentioned, it's a really good football team. A lot of people just saying because it's TCU, the Big 12. I don't care anything about that. You look at the personnel, you look at the way they're coached, how they win ball games. This is a really good football team, and they deserve to be here. Nobody gave them a chance versus Michigan either. I think they might have been a double-digit favorite. Underdog in that one too, and we know what happened in that ball game. So at the end of the day, it just matters what happened between those white lines. I don't care what people say on the outside. That's a really good TCU team.
All right, championship game is Monday, January 9th, 7:30 Eastern Time. Kickoff shortly after that. You can listen to our broadcast on the Bulldog Sports Network and hear more great analysis from those two gentlemen right there. We'll be in Los Angeles on Monday to follow the Dogs, hopefully to another championship in the college football playoff. So we hope to see you then. You can listen in also on SEC Network. Our broadcast will be synced up with the video, and you can hear the Georgia Bulldog Sports Network on the SEC Network on Monday night. Z and Shock, thanks so much. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on Monday. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
No.